Welcome to another critical conversation. In these conversations, we're exploring the impact of COVID-19 on education. My name is Wanda L. Scott, and I'm an educator, and I love getting to know other people's experiences around education and around events that impact our world. So today we are having conversations with everyday people just like you and I. And we have the pleasure of interviewing today DeJeane Croft. DeJeane, tell us about yourself.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me, Wanda. This is definitely a great opportunity to share about myself. So I am a 41-year-old transplant from Detroit, Michigan. I've been married to my high school sweetheart, Johnny Croft, for 15 years. And together we have a daughter. She's 13. And I'm a school employee. So I am a financial administrator for the Metro Nashville public school system. I've been working for the system for 15 years, of which 8 of those years have been as a financial administrator and 7 a general school assistant.
Okay, so you're heavily steeped you're in education. You have a child of your own who is in school right now, correct?
That's correct. And my husband, I failed to mention, he's a high school band director.
Wow. So you just have like the complete picture of how COVID has impacted, a family. So it's coming from affecting every member of the family. So DeJeane, tell me, what has been your experience from 2020, March 2020, when COVID hit up until now?
Much like everybody else, it's been a whirlwind, and it's been just kind of the expect the unexpected, right? So August 2020 to December 2020, I had some personal things going on, as well as some adjustments to how education kind of has changed, with a lot of it being on the job experience while doing the different changes. So let's talk about the personal piece first, and then I can talk about the part of education. So in May of 2020, my grandma passed away. At her funeral, she was in Detroit, and I'm again in Nashville. So we had her funeral in August. And like many people, my family has been very strict about the whole, not being socially distant, and just being really cautious, right? So that meant we were here in Nashville while we had to funeralize my grandmother. And so most of the service that took place where she lives in Michigan, my aunt that lives there, she kind of facilitated that all. But the virtual part of it for the family that couldn't attend, I kind of orchestrated a Zoom call and getting the plans in place for that, for her to have a good send off. And then kind of fast forward to October, personally, my grandfather passed. Now, he was sick back in January, around the same time I had a blood transfusion.
Wow.
So we didn't know what that illness was. He just kept having pneumonia on and off. COVID wasn't really as prevalent of a thing then. And so we didn't know. My grandfather was a smoker way, way back in the, early of his adulthood, but he was 92, 93. So we found out probably around Thanksgiving time, he had cancer, lung cancer, stage 4. And so it was like the moment he found out, like mentally he had checked out. Like became a progression of him being in the hospital. He went from the hospital to physical therapy. They made the appointment for him to be in hospice, and like he never made it to hospice. He like deteriorated that quickly. So that's what happened personally. And then he had, we did a full memorial. My mom orchestrated his funeral in Buffalo, New York. And again, this time I was more heavy with the preparing. a full memorial service. I'm talking about obituaries, mailing out, save the dates, kind of, again, implementing something I've never done. I've never planned for a funeral, let alone a virtual funeral / memorial. So I was able to honor him and reach out to all different family members and friends that knew him to have a good send off, again, on the Zoom platform. So professionally, it's been an on the job experience. Like I said, we learned about, we've already know that the educational system has its flaws, the whole classism thing, the racism thing, and it was just, COVID put a bigger spotlight on that, right? And so I work at a school, Cambridge Early Learning Center, where most of our population are second language speakers. So this is a pre-K center. So many of those families, let alone the children, this is their first exposure to English. So you have the dynamics of trying to navigate the whole virtual world, but on top of that, you don't know any English. So at that whole, and then for pre-K, most of the learning that they do is hands-on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you teach a 4-year-old now, put this computer in front of you and let's talk school?
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, that's kind of been an adjustment. And then for my own work, luckily I'm kind of, I don't know, gifted in the way that God makes me a forward thinker, right? And so being with the school system for 15 years, I've always kind of been advocating, hey, we need to be thinking about getting bookkeepers laptops, because for the longest we've had desktop computers. And so it was an unwritten rule, but not necessarily a policy. Hey, if you ever need to be out, make sure that your vacation time or what have you kind of coincides with when we don't have to process payroll, because pretty much there's nobody that backups me, that is a backup for me. Where teachers get substitutes to kind of fill in the gaps. We get subs, but they're not trained to do what I do. I do most of the money management, the financial administration part of it, the bookkeeping, the payroll, anything that pertains to finances heavily. That's me. And you wouldn't want somebody in that capacity to kind of be doing that anyway. So because I'm a forward thinker, I kind of had prepared unknowingly about COVID, a system to where I could do a lot of things, what I do from home anyway. So when COVID came, work-wise, it wasn't as much of an adjustment for me. So that's my August 2020 to December 2020.
Wow. I mean, that's excellent, because I know so many people were not in that position, where they knew how to make that happen. And I love what you said about, at that age range, they learned by touching and seeing and the interaction. And now that's on the computer. So we can only imagine how the teachers have had to adjust to that across the United States, and who knows, across the world where they have the technology. So thank you for bringing that up. So when it comes to your daughter, how has the experience been for her?
And definitely, again, an adjustment period for her. So again, she's a teenager, 13, and she's the only child, right? So socially, she's a social butterfly. So this whole platform for her, it just has been a challenge, because many days I have to kind of push and egg her on, like, you can do this, you've got this, because she's just like, I miss my friends. I miss my friends. And then not only that, like, I try to make, again, reinventing how we navigate this COVID world, reinventing how play dates or socializing with your friends happens. So luckily and prayerfully and gratefully, she has been excelling in this platform. She's an all A student. She always has been, but to me, this is a different layer to learn how to do this virtual system while doing the virtual system and still be able to bring home all A's. Amazing. But here's my biggest concern about that. She has a math class, and math has always been a challenge for her. It's not that she doesn't get it. Jade is the kind of student to where if she gets it, and she's excelling in it. But if it requires her to think a little bit more or to, she usually needs a tutor for math. So that kind of wasn't explained in how this works in a virtual system. So luckily I have good relationships with some of her teachers from years previously. So I reached out to her math teacher, and she squirrels in her time, and again, having to do her own COVID adjustment. She tutors my daughters on Saturdays, all, free. She told us that's what she's willing to do because she just loves Jada that much. But then Jada is also a band student. So my husband's a band director. She's a band student in middle school. And here I am, the bookkeeper, having to kind of keep phone calls and that kind of thing. So many times finding a quiet space in my home.
I can only imagine.
Indeed a challenge, but overall she's doing well. It's just the social aspects. And then on top of having to grieve, and she sees me grieve, and I'm having a hard time adjusting. And so how can I explain to my child, hey, this is what it is, and it's okay to feel this way. And then luckily she's in a program here locally called Girls Inc. So that's been kind of our saving grace to kind of be able to allow her a social platform, although it's virtually. It's just been different.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I appreciate you sharing, authentically. And I'm sorry for the loss of both of your grandparents. I can only imagine, for so many, this has been their experience, loss in some form on top of trying to adjust. But when we look at education and learning on top of grief, on top of financial situations. And I'm thankful to hear that has not been an issue with two teachers in the house and everything is moving forward. I just really appreciate you, authentically sharing with that. And in closing, my final question to you is there anything from 2020 that you are bringing into 2021?
Wanda, when you asked me that question and you kind of prepared me ahead of time, that was the question that kind of like, if you can see over my head, the emojis, question, question, question. So I'm going to go off of a little script that I have just to answer that question for you. So the best way for me to answer the question is to say, in order to go forward, we have to acknowledge and reflect from where we came, right? So we had in 2020 the pandemic, stronger presence of the Black Lives Matter movement, loss of loved ones, a lot of changes in our weather from global warming, and corruption in our political system. And those were just some of the highlights of 2020. And I can remember thinking back in January, like, this is the year, right? Everybody kind of coined year 2020 to be the vision. What is it?
Year of vision.
The year of good vision, a clear vision. And so, like, here I am sitting at my table, December 31, like, God, 2020 wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But he had to remind me he's sovereign. He knows all. He knows the beginning and the end. And so I had to trust him in what my 2021 looks like. And so 2020 vision was God's vision. He got to show us a lot of heart issues within ourselves. I've learned how to show a little more grace to others and I'm learning to show grace to myself.
Yeah, that's hard.
That's a struggle. I've learned to be more patient. I'm a patient person by nature anyway. But again, I guess it's the part of self-love that I'm learning to be patient with myself. As well as I would say, chapter 2021 hasn't been written, and anything is possible. So in that possibility, I've started a virtual platform myself, right? I won't say I'm a business owner, but I'm evolving into that space. So because I wasn't able to connect with my family, I've started a business, and I've used the pain that I had of losing my 2 grandparents, and I failed to mention a great aunt,
Wow.
called Labor of Love. And basically, it's my way of connecting virtually and giving a platform for families to kind of get together, be it in a social setting. So we're playing games, we're hosting events where people come in and teach us a how-to. We might be having a virtual brunch. And one of my favorite things is interior decorating. So I'm learning how to do that virtually and using it as a business tool. So I have a scripture from 1 Corinthians 29, and that's kind of where the slogan for my company is: virtually anything is possible. So it's just a play on words because things are virtual. So it's but it is written, eyes have not seen, no ear heard, neither have entered in the heart of man the things which God has prepared for them that love him. So anything's possible. 2021, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know God has been a provider for me. Even though I'm in pain and angry with God, I know he's not going to leave my side. So that's what 2021 looks like for me.
Wow, thank you so much, DeJeane. I mean, this has been a powerful interview because of your authenticity, your hope, your ability to selfishly share with us. And I just want you to know I appreciate you. I know God is with you and will not leave you and will walk you through the process. Congratulations on your new business. I know it will be a success. And just thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me. This was a pleasure, Wanda.
And so I'd like to say thank you to everyone else who is watching online, who is viewing this on my YouTube channel. Like, share, comment, let us know how this impacted you. Let others know about this critical conversation exploring how COVID-19 has impacted education for everyday people like you and I.